G'day Jafffa Adventures, Terry King here. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to another episode in the FJ45 build series. Here we've got a tub off a 79 Series Landcruiser. Last episode you would have saw me chop out 250 mil out of that tub so that it'll fit on the 45 Series chassis. And that's how she's come up, and it looks an absolute treat. I'm very happy with the outcome there. In this episode, we're going to be fitting these small little side steps, I guess you'd call them, and some wheel arch flares from fiberglass replacement panels. You want to see me tackle those two jobs? Stick around. Now these wheel flares are from a company called FRP, which are in Brisbane, fiberglass replacement panels. And they were $350 for the set. They're a factory style wheel arch. You can get aftermarket ones that are a bit wider than this, but I chose the factory width. Now stacking one on top of the other like that, and they are identical, so there's no left and right, which is cool. Now they give you some seals as well, and you can see one side of the seal's got a little bit of a bump on it, or a contour, and the other side of the seal is more flat. The flat side of the seal apparently goes to the outside. So I've got that seal in place now. That's just temporary. You do need to put that on with some weather strip adhesive. Now the instructions say, mark the center of the wheel arch, which is a little bit tricky because you've got these curves here. We'll give it a crack. Doesn't need to be super accurate, I wouldn't imagine. There's my center of the wheel arch. Then it says go around and mark 120 mil centers. We got one there, one right about there, another one there, one here on the end, I'm assuming, or perhaps here. You do get some fitting instructions, and by the way, that's the address of the place if you want to grab these things from FRP. And they're actually quite good, these fitting instructions, so I've got to hand it to him. Really nice gentleman running the place. He said he's been there for about 40 years, so he certainly knows his stuff. And they had these things in stock on the shelf, which was awesome. It says centralize the flare in the wheel arch with the appropriate size drill bit. Start drilling in the center at the top of the wheel arch and work your way around. So that's what we're going to do. There's not a very big lip on this factory flare here, so you got to be pretty accurate. See the width you're working with? That's probably about 10 mil. And of course I've got to have the dullest drill in the entire kit working for me. That's better. Alrighty, one down. Let's just keep on moving along. All right, you get the picture. I'll see you back up when I get that finished. We've got all those machine screws in place, holding that flare on. Let's have a look at it from the top side. That's what our flare looks like on the top side. That rubber's sitting up nice and tight up to the body. Sweet! Okie dokie, time to rinse and repeat on the other side. See you when we're done.
I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
Well, there was a potential screw up right there. Pulling the pin. I got ahead of myself and said, hey, I'll put this bloody 252 down and I'll affix this in place. But of course, I still have to paint these flares. And there's no way that I'm going to be masking off those rubbers. I'll paint the entire flares and then affix the rubbers. So, off with the 252. Just got a bit of thinners and I'm cleaning that 252 up with that because I still do have to put that trim or that molding on place just for when I affix the flare, make sure that it's all seated in there properly. So I got to get all this 252 off or it's going to stick to this bloody flare. I love these make work projects I do for myself. All right, flare number 2 is in place and it looks bloody good as well. The rubber's laying up against the body very nicely. So we'll call that one a win. Time now to move on to the side steps. Okay, so that step sits there. And there's two issues that I've got with that. One, I've got to rearrange these mounts on the back because things have changed there. But secondly, that square looks like crap. Because that looks so nasty, I'm going to extend this. So basically, I'm going to fill that in with a part of the step. I think probably I'll cut it down here, bend that end out here on the right angle, and then fill in that little triangle that I've got left over. Then I'll worry about the mount on the back side. But I do not like the way that that square looks. The body lines just aren't right. That needs to run like this. Oh well, that's what you get when you're modifying things, isn't it? You run into stuff that you didn't anticipate. Look at that. Factory rust. Oh, brand new tub too. I've got the tub just sitting on the chassis at the moment, not bolted down or anything, but this might be able to show you a little bit of what I'm talking about in terms of this step. Now, up close it doesn't look too bad to me. Still, that triangle is a little bit annoying, but as you pull back and look at the actual body lines of the car, for me anyway, that stands out as something pretty obvious. And that's just not cool, so I'm definitely going to fill that triangle in. All right, that line that I've got marked on there, that's going to be my cut line. So the idea is slice it down here because it's a folded edge, pry that out, and then fill that triangle in with some new steel. All right, that's cut. Now let's get our angle correct. That's it right there. Now I don't intend taking that right on that same edge because that could interfere with the tire when the tire's in full compression. But what I wanted to do was get the angle of that equal with the angle of our guard. And that's it right there. So there's the triangle that I need to fill in. Now I got myself a piece of scrap steel here. I'm going to fabricate into the bit I need. The first thing I'm going to do is fold this edge here to the same contour as that. I'll fold this by hand for starters because I want a gentle radius on that. If I use a hammer, I'll get quite a sharp radius, I think. All right, there's my piece of steel. There's my radius. Bang on. Sweet. It's a little long, but I can trim that off later. I just wanted to get that radius correct. Now that I've got my radius, I need to get my length correct. I need my length and my angle correct. So that's the proper length right there. I know that angle's correct because I haven't moved it since I took it off the car. And now I'll just extend that line all the way to the end. There we have it. Now, let me double check before I cut. Nice, that looks good. Now I want to cut right on that line. Okay, there's our little triangle. Ready to be welded in place. I'll just grind off that paint and tack it in situ. That's tacked in place now. It's nice and flat that way. So we got that covered so it's not warping in and out. What I'm going to do now is chop off that little bit that doesn't belong there anymore. Take that down to the right size. And then I'll finish up this corner here with a small piece. Okay, that's chopped off and that's beautiful and flush. Nice. Now we just got to make that rounded corner. Now I've got that all welded up on the inside. I've still got to dress those welds. But it looks pretty good. I've got that angle there the way that I want it. That looks good there. And I've got that end finished off now as well. I'll get the MIG and do a little bit there, and a little bit there, and we'll fit this up to the car and see how she looks. Okay, I got that end finished off, and all of my edges look pretty good. So let me go ahead and fit that up to the car and see what it actually looks like. First thing I'll do is the angle check, and that is spot on. That's all sweet. Now, how does that look to the eye compared to the old straight one? I know your eye gets drawn to that seam where I've welded it, but that'll be all straightened up, hammered and dollied smooth, and then a skim coat of bog over top of that. But how do I like that compared to that straight edge that we had before? I like it. I like it a lot more. Let's do a couple of befores and after. Before, after. Before, after. Before, after. Before, after. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. The only thing I need to do is weld that brace onto the back side, bolt that one up. That takes me to the next job, which is actually mounting the tub onto the chassis. At the moment, it's just sitting there, but it's actually quite level. If you look at the angle of the tub, the angle of the cab, it's pretty bloody close. It's sitting on the chassis a little bit askew but in terms of how it needs to sit to be level, that's pretty close. So, assuming that's level, let's look at some important lines. There's a line there. That cab is sitting probably about 50 mil lower than that step. So that's one thing that funks the eye out. This line here on the cab is sitting about 50 mil lower than this part of the tub as well. So that funks the eye out. And lastly, that headboard is sitting proud of the roof. And it'd be proud of the roof by about 75 mil. The gap between the wheel and the flare is probably a little bit high for my eye as well. Doesn't need to come down a lot. Again, probably that 50 mil might get us there. Well, that seems pretty easy. We just drop the tub by 50 mil and all of those lines line up. So we've determined that the tub is roughly sitting at the level that it should. For my eye, probably 50 mil too high, which means I got to drop it 50 mil. So where's it sitting? One spot. It's balancing right here. So I could easily chop the end of that brace off, and lo and behold, that'd get me pretty close to 50 mil. The front can go down, no dramas at all. In fact, I'm gonna have to fabricate up some box section there to do that. So it's obviously not just balancing in the center there. Where else is it sitting? And here it is right here. Right now it's sitting on the back of those tail lights. And that poses me a problem because I can't drop this down 50 mil because these tail lights are in the road. I really would like to use those factory tail lights and that factory balance panel if I could. So my question to myself is, what do I do? Somehow I got to get this back 50 mil. Now I could cut the tub and extend it 50 mil, like I shortened it 50 mil up at the front, but that's going to be a crap ton of work. I may be able to relocate this taillight balance panel. I'll have to look into that, but I can see one challenge straight up. Tailgate hinge is welded to this. So that's going to take a little bit of head scratching. Or I could just say, screw it, I'm going to leave it where it is and call it quits. That would be the easy way out. And I may go down that route. I'm not quite sure yet, but that's my challenge. Do I leave the tub where it is? Do I drop it 50 mil? And if I do drop it 50 mil, how do I deal with this back end? That is called a head scratch, and I really don't have an answer to that. But the next time you see a video on this tub drop onto YouTube, the solution will have come to me. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing hanging around? Bugger off. Until next time, everybody, keep the shiny side up. Bye now.